Hi again, everybody. Carnivore Hippie. Here is video number 2 for the oven braised beef ribs. I decided to do 2 videos rather than 3 because the second video would have been like super short. It would have just been about taking the ribs out of the refrigerator and setting the oven and putting them in, and that just kind of seemed like a waste of effort. So basically what we did was the ribs sat in the refrigerator overnight, and at about noon today, right now it's about 5 o'clock, at about noon today I put them in the oven and turned the oven on to 250. You don't have to preheat the oven because the ribs are going to be in there so long that and such a low temperature, the preheating of the oven basically is pointless. So I put the ribs in the oven, turned the oven on to 250, which is very low, and they just have stayed in there for 5 hours. Okay? And this is necessary because there's a lot of connective tissue in these ribs, and there's a lot of tough tissue that would ordinarily be completely inedible. But with the rub and the long, slow cooking time and the low temperature, all of the tough cartilage and stuff is going to really break down wonderfully and create a lot of soft, succulent flesh and wonderful collagen gelatin. Okay, they're going to be just soft and juicy and meaty, and you'll see they're going to be spectacular. So I'm going to put the camera down, and hopefully I can get it oriented in a useful direction. There's the oven, as you can see. Let's see if I can get it a little bit better than that. If I can get it to stay. No, it's not going to stay. So I'm going to move it back a little bit. There, that's better. I should have done this ahead of time, probably. Ha ha ha. This ball joint just won't get tight enough. Wait a second, I have an idea. Yeah, I could have like messed with all of this ahead of time, right? Yeah, oh well. I'm new to this. Okay, we're gonna take the stuff out of the oven. So after we got the first rack of ribs done, I made 2 more racks because there's no point in making them unless there's a lot of them. Now this one, unfortunately, I remember telling you, sometimes no matter what you do, you want them to stay as sealed up as possible, but this one has obviously leaked, but that's okay. It's still going to be good. And this one here on this side leaked. This one didn't. So maybe I just didn't get the foil sheets long enough for the other 2. So now where the fun begins. We're turning the oven off. It's going to stay hot for a little while. And I'm going to reorient the camera here so we can see the countertop. Okay? Because what we're going to do is we're going to take all of the juice that comes out of these ribs and we're going to put them in this big skillet. See all the juice that is collected in this pan here? We're going to pour that off. And then we're going to carefully, we're going to open up one end of this foil pouch. And we're going to very, very carefully lift this up. This isn't as hot as you might think it is because this has been cooking at 250 Celsius. Not Celsius, but Fahrenheit the whole time. Now you're going to see there's going to be a lot of liquid pour out here. Well, there should have been. I guess most of it came out into the pan, that one. You'll see a lot of liquid come out of the other ones, though. We're just going to save everything we can. So we did manage to get one that didn't leak. So you're going to see how much liquid comes out of this one. This is what we're looking for. Ooh, look at the steam. Hold on to it carefully. And you can see okay, that's good. I'm going to open this up a little bit. There's no reason why it has to stay in the foil anymore. Just to make sure we got the fluid out of it. Yeah, we did. And I'll show you what these look like. You can see how they are really just soft. And the bones, I told you I like to just pull the bones out. The bones just, look at that, they just pull right out. That's what they're supposed to be like. Everything is just soft and supple and tender. And we're going to open up the next packet. They've cooled off enough now I can manipulate them with my hands. Yeah, this one. Ouch, this one leaked too. Well, we have enough. Whoops. See how much we got in there? We got about 3/4 of a cup of liquid. That's liquid and fat. And right now we're going to move over to the stove. So this is a little bit too big of a pan, bigger than I really need, because I expected there to be more liquid. So we're going to swap to a smaller pan, but in the meantime, we're going to pour this into a measuring container and give it a minute for the fat to separate up. It's already started. And in the meantime, I'm going to finish unwrapping these ribs. So give me a minute and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, so we're back. And here you can see I've removed the meat from the foil and pulled the bones out. Lighting is terrible. There we go. And put them in this casserole dish just to keep them contained and safe. And we're gonna go back over here and put them back in the oven, where I've turned the oven off, but the oven is still nice and warm. And to kind of rescue the juices that leak down of the foil packet, I lined the pan with foil before baking, which is helpful. And I put a little water in the baking tray, and we're just gonna do our best to dissolve what we can of these juices. They're still usable. They're still delicious. They've browned a little bit, but that's fine too. That tastes good. And just gonna use the water a little warm water to just kind of dissolve this and make it juicy again. And then I'm sorry, I am less than prepared today. I've been distracted visiting with my grandnephew. So now we have the juices that we reserved in our skillet here. And we're going to put the juices that we saved from deglazing our pan into the skillet here. There's some fat. We don't need it all, but some is okay. And now here we have the juices. The rest of the juices came out. See, all this top part is fat. We don't need that. If you want to save it and use it for something else, I mean, that's all good beef tallow. You can do that. It will have some flavor in it from the seasonings we used, but all of this down here, the dark stuff, is the non-fat stuff. And how I like to separate it is just take a baster and clamp your hand down on the end of it like this. Compress the bulb as much as you can. Tilt so that you've got a really deep well of the non-fatty juices. Or you can just use a gravy separator, but I like this just as well. And suck it up in the bulb baster. Squirt it in the pan. And just do that several times until all of the very, very dark liquid has been sucked up into the baster. And you basically only have the golden fat left.
It's kind of a hack, but I find this actually easier than a gravy separator. See? Very little of anything that's not fat left in the bottom of there. And you can do whatever you want with that beef tallow. Now, here we have our pan of drippings. And we're going to use this to make sauce for a finished project or finished dish. Turning that on. Get some of this off the stove top. And to finish up the sauce, you can just use the sauce just as it is if you want to, but I like mine to taste a lot like barbecue sauce. And so we're going to add, no sugar added, regular old ketchup. You can use regular ketchup if you want to, but this has 1 gram of carb per tablespoon, and regular ketchup has 5 grams of carb per tablespoon. So this is going to add a little bit of carbs. 1/3 of a cup is about 5 grams of carbs. And I'm going to eyeball it. Oh, the heck with that. About 1/3 of a cup. And now this next step you can absolutely leave out if you want to. But this is just something that I have found works really well. I like some sweetener in my barbecue sauce. But if you use erythritol, what happens is the erythritol just regranulates. And as soon as the barbecue sauce cools, it gets super grainy, which I find really unpleasant. And I have found this online, allulose syrup. This stuff does not granulate when it gets cool, when you cook it in sauces. And I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons. And this is a 1/4 cup measure, and so I'm going to put a little bit less than 1/4 of a cup. Just because I like the taste. You can leave this out. If you don't like sweeteners, just leave it out. Okay. And last but not least, because I like the taste of it, it tastes like traditional barbecue sauce. We're going to put about a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in here. Just gives it the nice sweet and tart and tangy taste that we identify with barbecue sauce. But there's also going to be all the meat juices, and so it's going to taste like all the spices that we put in earlier. It's going to taste like the meat, and it's going to have a sweet and tangy and sort of and a tomatoey taste, just like regular barbecue sauce, but it's going to have so much more depth and complexity than like barbecue sauce you buy in a bottle. This is the old-fashioned way that you make barbecue sauces, but you use the drippings that come off the meat to make barbecue sauce, and this is how all barbecue sauce used to be made until people started bottling it, in which case, it became a problem. And you can also, at this point, which I like to do, we're going to go back to our Wright's liquid smoke. And we are just going to put a teeny tiny bit in, maybe another 1/4 teaspoon. If you've used it before and you know how much you like, go for it. But if you have never used it before, please go sparingly, because you could end up really ruining your dish. Okay, so this is very, very, very liquid. You can see by how it's cooking that it's about the consistency of water. This is going to have to cook down and reduce, and it's going to become thick and barbecue saucy relatively quickly, but still, you don't want to sit here and watch water boil. So this is probably going to cook, and you can let it bubble pretty hard. You have to keep an eye on it, but it's probably going to cook for about 5 minutes till it reduces down enough. And I'm not going to make you watch that, so I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Hey everybody, we're back again. And it's been about 5 minutes. Our sauce has reduced. And I want to show you how you can tell by visual whether your sauce has reduced enough. If you can see the size of the bubbles are getting bigger. The bigger the bubbles get, the thicker it is. So these bubbles are about the size of a big grain of rice, and they're slowly but surely getting bigger. Some of them are about the size of a split pea. A few of them are approaching the size of a pea. When most of them get about this to about the size of a split pea or a grain of pearl barley, if you know how big those are, this is going to be thick enough. When it started out, it was boiling with little tiny bubbles, just like plain water would. But we're just about to the point where it's got some really good big sized bubbles in here. And that's what we're looking at. So I'm going to move the camera back. You have to stir it around occasionally to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan, because it will cling to the bottom of the pan and it might scorch. Okay, we're going to turn this off because we are about done. Move it off the heat, and you can see it's much thicker, very syrupy. You can even let it reduce more if you want to, but I think if you let it reduce too much, it just gets too strong. Now we're going to reach into the oven and bring out our casserole of ribs. Our lovely, lovely big pan of meat. We're going to move over here where the light is better. Close your eyes if you get motion sick. There's our plate. pile of meat. And our skillet of sauce. You could have this in a gravy boat or something, but I don't have one handy. And I'll get better at this as I go along, folks. But here we go. Here is basically a serving. One whole rack of ribs, and I have pulled all the bones out, as I said I liked to do, because they just slide right out, and you can tell. Look at this. You don't even need a knife, although it's helpful to have one. Sauce. This sauce is spicy and sweet and tangy and really rich with the meat juices. It's pretty much basically everything you could ever want from a barbecue sauce. Just so much better than anything that comes from a jar. And here we go. I'm gonna take a bite. That it's just soft and juicy and wonderful, and the light is terrible in here. I didn't get my light stand in here. I didn't think we'd need it, but maybe I'll do this one again and just do it better. It's indescribable almost. It's one of my favorite ways to eat beef. I hope you try this. It's an effort. It's an investment in time. But once you get good at doing it, most of the preparation time is hands off. Overnight in the refrigerator, 5 hours in the oven. And the actual work time that's necessary is like less than an hour, really. So please try it. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I happily invite any criticism, constructive criticism, or suggestions. I love you all. Peace, love, and meat. I'm going to have some ribs and go back to visiting with my grandnephew. Bye.